Hello and good afternoon. My name is Kit Cabello of Heartlands Media. We are filming here at the Q4 radio station, and I'm joined here today with our special guest, Drake Materre. I met Drake Materre at a community event at Inglewood in regards to the four schools that were being threatened being shut down. So Drake is part of an independent non-for-profit organization, and so Drake, thank you so much for joining
Thank you for
Heartlands
having
Media.
me. Thank you for having me.
So I think right now for our viewers who are going to be watching this on CAN TV, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you represent?
Again, my name is Drake Materre. I'm the Assistant Project Coordinator of Naturopath Nutrition Incorporated. And Naturopath Nutrition Incorporated is about nutrition education. It's about finding a natural path toward health and wellness. That is our number one goal. We don't believe in band-aid approaches. And I feel like that goes beyond just naturopath nutrition. I think that is a deep ideology of mine that I believe in, band-aid approaches, and that comes in place of understanding, racism, sexism, Islamophobia, homophobia. I don't believe in band-aid approaches in solving, in trying to, let's say, free people, right? A band-aid approach is, let's say, legalizing marijuana instead of actually looking and restructuring the whole prison system itself. That's when I think of a band-aid approach. It goes beyond naturopath nutrition. It goes beyond just me. It goes into any type of evil that this nation that goes on within this nation and abroad. And that's one thing that we believe in, a band-aid, not having a band-aid approach in terms of health and wellness. Again, band-aid approaches only stop the symptoms and it doesn't get to the root issue of the problem.
The one thing we've noticed, especially in a city like Chicago, people are struggling, especially in the low-income, working-class communities of color, people working on 2 or 3 jobs. And the one thing that a lot of people are concerned of is if they have that one bad day where they have a horrible accident or they get some kind of sickness, their job, their livelihood, their family, all at risk.
Definitely.
So essentially, what is the talk, at least amongst working class communities of color, especially the communities that your organization is a part of and contributes to? Is there talk about single payer health care? And is there talk about really addressing the fact that people need some form of relief?
You know what? My number one thing is people across the board. I believe in universal health care. I do. I really.
It's your own personal.
Yeah, that's my personal belief. Naturopath nutrition. We haven't made a real stance on that. We have. It just didn't. We do believe that people need access to health care. I will say that. Now, how that goes. Now, how that's implemented. That I won't say. Naturopath nutrition really have a stance. We do believe though that everybody should have healthcare. Not only on the south side of Chicago do I believe in healthcare for everyone. A trauma center is necessary. That's one thing that I was reading about the other day. A lot of activists were actually wanted University of Chicago to create a trauma center. So of course we all know trauma centers. There's hardly any trauma centers on the south side of Chicago. So a lot of victims of gunshot wounds, they have to be taken all the way to Northwestern. They have to go far away, and this has actually led to some people just the distance of having to reach a hospital with a trauma center has actually led to members of our community, unfortunately passing away because they just couldn't get to a trauma center. So not only healthcare, but having a trauma center on the south side of Chicago is something that I advocate for, and that naturopath nutrition advocates for as well. Another thing that we also need to talk about, especially in the Black community, is organ donation. I am an ambassador for Gift of Hope, which is basically a volunteer for Gift of Hope. Organ donation in the Black community, we are in dire need of organs, but we are like the least to donate. Now, yes, there is a fear of like this, they're taking our organs, it's on the black market. But working with Gift of Hope, I've kind of looked at a lot of things that actually dispel that myth. Of course, there's going to be trafficking. Unfortunately, we have sex trafficking, human trafficking. There's going to be trafficking, right? But I believe when it comes to organ donation, um, we as a people need to sign up so that when we do pass, our organs are going to back to our community. What's a good way to help your community is when you're gone that you're benefiting somebody in the community. So organ donations is another thing that I want to talk about that we discuss as well and advocate for.
Right. And another thing that needs to be addressed too is in regards to health, another issue is proper dieting.
Yes.
Proper food. The one common thing that we see in a lot of low-income communities, especially here in the Chicagoland area, and Chicago itself, it has that history of being a hyper-segregated city.
Definitely.
In the low-income areas, there are food deserts.
Food,
and
definitely.
so, working-class families don't have access to fresh foods such as fruits, vegetables, meat, that kind of stuff. So, really, in regards to your organization, what kind of education and programs are you helping in regards to helping the people at least get some form of food relief?
So there was actually a study done by Marie Gallagher. I believe it was Marie Gallagher that talks about again the food deserts in Chicago and that they're disproportionately on the south side and west sides of the city of Chicago. And then we know, again, like you said, it's highly segregated, west side, south side, predominantly black, and unfortunately disproportionately low income as well. Our focus is actually, what I want to do is I want to push forward and work with multiple organizations on teaching the youth actually how to plant their own food, to actually basically do what needs to be done in order to get the produce that they need. So I've been working with, we've been working with other organizations. We're trying to build urban garden projects around Chicago. We don't have any, but we have been working. We want to work with more organizations to actually build and produce and, keep urban garden projects moving. So not only is this feeding our community, but again, Monsanto won't have their hands on it with GMO. It won't be genetically modified, all this, that, and the other. It's in its raw, natural state, which is, to be honest, how it was intended at the beginning of time. In its raw state, natural state. But not only that, we can have programs where the youth come and learn how to do that. That's agricultural and industrial education. One thing that when we talk about, again, gentrification in the food deserts, our industrial education we don't have it anymore. We need to bring those industrial schools, the industrial education back to the city. Again, the city is not trying to fund education, and again, not everyone is going to go to college. So I believe that everyone should have a trade, and one trade can be agriculture. One trade can be planting and producing the food for the community. So it would be excellent if we as a people came together to create more urban garden projects, but also create programs to teach the youth to actually keep these urban garden projects moving, sustaining them, and to actually feed the community that way. Unfortunately, all we have in our communities are like liquor stores, corner stores that sell inferior products at superior prices, McDonald's on every corner. This is what we're left with. Yes, how we eat is cultural as well. Soul food. How we eat. That does play a role, but it's economics and politics as well. And so our stance with naturopath nutrition, not only will we talk about health and wellness, but we will also talk about economics and politics, because that affects our mental health, that affects our physical health, and that affects our spiritual, emotional, all of that. Everything that we're dealing with affects our health and how we respond to the world. We live in a stressful life. Life is stressful, day-to-day work. Not only that, the students are living in, again, not having nutritious foods, but then have to live in neighborhoods that are poverty-stricken. We're dealing with poverty, homelessness. We're dealing with a lack of funding. Now we're dealing with our health being, unfortunate, being attacked as well. And again, I think of it like the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers. People talk about the guns, they talk about that, but the Black Panthers created the free breakfast program, and that's actually what the United States copied And if we can get back to our health, our health, I feel like our politics and our economics, I feel like that will start to come into play. I really do believe that it starts with our own personal health and our health as a community.
Now, we've all seen the real impact of money in politics.
Definitely.
Citizens United opened the door. The McCutcheon's decision gave it an additional boost. And here in the Chicagoland area, the city government and even the Cook County government really has yet to really address the impact of gentrification and how it's really affecting a lot of low-income, working-class families and communities. And so, essentially, what kind of political action then is necessary or that needs to be taken in order to protect families that have been living in these communities for generations?
I'm going to be real honest. Black people, we always say, we say you're supposed to vote because our ancestors died for it. Well, no, our ancestors were killed for the right to vote, but they were not killed to become political prostitutes to the Democratic Party. And I'm not saying anything bad about the Democratic Party. I'm saying that we can no longer just look at a Democratic option. And I'm not saying look at a Republican option. I'm saying let's look at an independent option. I've been working with Willie Preston. He's running for 31st State District Representative. He is running against Mary Flowers, incumbent, who has been there 30 years and no opposition, kind of like Mike Madigan. And
40 plus
years, no opposition. And these are Democrats. And I don't believe that politics should be a career for anybody. Again, there need to be term limits, and that's what Willie Preston's actually advocating. Term limits on governor, speaker, and on representatives as well. Because if we have these people that are just going in and on and on and on, they're not. In my opinion, sometimes they're more than likely they're bought. No opposition, we're getting the same thing and no change. It's time for a new breed of leadership, and that's what Willie Preston kind of stands on, new breed of leadership. And he was actually at the community event that we met at Inglewood, in the Inglewood neighborhood, about the closing of 4 schools, and that's when I actually started working with his campaign. I do believe that Willie Preston has the power, the ability to move not only just the 31st district, but the state as a whole. He progressive tax reform, working for an elected school board, bringing the industrial schools back. And crazy thing is, Mary Flowers, who is actually the one who he's running against, she actually voted to keep, I think, the city of CPS in the hands of, Rounder, or I forgot exactly what it was, in the hands of Rounder. And of course, we all know Rounder and the funding of education. So it's, again, all forms of repression are interrelated, and we're dealing with it on all fronts.
It's corporate neoliberal establishment.
Exactly. It's all it is. And it's like you said, it's this neoliberal. In my opinion, there's a big difference between conservative, liberal, but then there's a really big difference between liberal and radical. When I look at this, and there was a lecture when I was down at school talking about it. When I think of liberal, I think of just Reformation. Now, I may take this a little radical side of this. I don't believe Reformation is going to change really anything. It does ease the pain of those marginalized groups. But Reformation, in my opinion, only changes the look of an institution, but it operates the same exact way. We have reformed slavery so much that it is now the prison industrial complex, but it is so hard to actually combat now. So a neoliberal would say, if we legalize marijuana, that's going to work. That's going to change. Well, no. What needs to happen is legalizing marijuana, but also making sure that all those brothers that were in jail for marijuana are released, that they're reimbursed for being in prison, because it's a shame now that a brother is behind bars for a dime bag, but you have these rich white elite who are now opening their dispensaries, across the nation, and they're making money off of it. They're making money off of what brothers are in prison for now. And again, why are brothers selling that in the first place? It's, again, gentrify, redlined our neighborhoods, create the ghetto, create the poverty-stricken neighborhood. keep keep opportunities away. And let's be honest, if you guys believe it or not, the government did kind of put the drugs in the community in the first place. That's highly documented. So this is what we are dealing with as a people, and I think we as a people cannot be apolitical. We have to be political. We can't just vote for the president. We have to vote for our aldermen. We have to vote for our attorney generals. We have to vote for our prosecutors. The fact that 90+% of prosecutors elected across the nation are white says something when brothers are the majority, disproportionately, the ones going to prison. So we can't be apolitical within our city, within our state, within our counties, within this nation. We cannot be apolitical. And again, I will not say that we need to just vote Democrat, and I'm not going to say that we need to vote Republican. I feel like we need to vote for who actually is going to fight for us, not vote simply because that person is there.
Right. So don't fall in line with party politics.
Don't
look at the individual and where they stand on the issues. One thing I think we notice in our political system is that we have a two-party political system, and that the banks, Wall Street, corporations, and top 1% are the ones who own and buy our elected officials. This affects both Democrats and Republicans. And when you have, for the most part, let's say some independent progressive Democrats, break out of line, challenge the party, the establishment would always push back and say that this person isn't pragmatic enough. This person doesn't really understand the issues enough. But what we're noticing now is that people are seeing the problems in our system. Definitely. And most notably, how you mentioned African American men, people of color, are targeted mostly for holding cannabis or selling cannabis. And it really helps out the prison industrial complex to where they have people in prison doing free labor, and they're behind bars for 30+ years. And whereas we have somebody who breaks our economic system, they're free. Too big to jail, too big to fail. But
we bail them out.
Yeah, of course, exactly. We bail them out. So for those who are at least critical of the system, because money in politics, again, plays a huge role. What do you want to say to somebody who's disheartened and say that what I do isn't going to matter?
I kind of look at, there was a great book, Black Power by Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, and it's called Black Power because it talks about the Mississippi, I forgot the exact name, but it talks about the Lowndes County Freedom Movement. And when I was reading that book, I kind of looked at it as a way in terms of, as a solution for present day. Like you said, we are dealing with a two-party system, and it shouldn't have been a two-party system from the get-go. Again, because they're both bought out. I feel that people, as a coalition, I believe in intersectionality. I believe that we need to acknowledge, Black LGBT, but LGBT that aren't Black. We need to acknowledge the Muslims, Hispanics, the Latinx community, the poor white community. We need to acknowledge all identities and identities across the nation, gender, LGBT, women's as well. We need to acknowledge that, come together as a coalition to create, in my opinion, a real progressive party. Now, of course, we're not going to be a progressive party in the next 2 years at the same size as the Democratic Party and Republican Party, but I believe that across the nation, in every major city that is predominantly, let's say that's diverse, there needs to be a creation of a political party, in my opinion, that may challenge, let's say, the party that's dominantly there. For example, Chicago, it's Democrat. It's a machine. It's a machine, though. It's a Democratic machine. I feel like there needs to be a party that's going to push the Democratic machine, not the Republican Party, but a party of the people, by the people, that's going to challenge the Democratic machine. So that when we put our people up there that we vote for, we're not putting them up there to then become sellouts to the Democratic Party. They need to be up there listening to us and respond, we're accountable to us, right? I feel like that, that comes, again, that solution kind of comes from Black Power by Stokely Carmichael, the creation of political parties across the nation that can challenge these machines in these cities.
Right. But the thing is, for the most part, a lot of people say about the city of Chicago, our current mayor, Cook County officials, that they're indifferent or they can't hear the issues that the people are screaming about because of the influence of large real estate developers. And I would like to return actually back to gentrification in neighborhoods, specifically with the schools that are being shut down under Mayor Emanuel. Just so that everyone knows, in 2011, when he first took office, during his 8-year term, 50 schools were shut down. And when we first met, we were at an Inglewood community event where 4 schools are at risk of being shut down as well. And the thing is, what is really the long-term social impact on closing these schools, especially in a lot of these low-income working-class communities? Because it has to leave a devastating blow. When we interviewed Fritz Craigie, for example, he explained to us that when a school is shut down, it is the official death blow to a community.
Again, the closing of the schools is, in my opinion, one of the first steps to gentrification. Education is so important and necessary within this nation. I just believe in life. If you attack education, that's going to be a major reason why people leave, why people go to the suburbs, because there's a better opportunity education-wise for my student, right? And I hear that, from a lot of family friends that they moved out to the suburbs because the education is better out there. It's cheaper, or it's just better in general. It's funded. What we have is not funded. So you underfund the 4 Inglewood high schools. When you underfund the education system, and then you want to wonder why it's not doing well, you took the basic needs of an education institution away. Who's to say that you're giving the teachers the job to get materials for the classroom? It's like this is what unfortunately predominantly Black and Hispanic students are dealing with the Chicago public school system. And not only that, when we pay our taxes, those taxes are then allocated to an education institution that's far on the north side or not even within our district. So what I believe what needs to happen is that we need to have it where if I'm living in this area, in this community, my taxes go to the education system in this community. But let's say if my taxes go to that education system, it can't go downtown for these real estate development. It can't. It has to come back for the education in my community that we get to control, not that a real estate developer gets to control. And so now that they're closing down these 4 schools, they're going to keep them open, and then 2 years later, when they get the selective enrollment one, then they're going to close it down. But see, what's also bogus about the selective enrollment is it only allows freshmen for that first year. The second year, there will be sophomores for the freshmen that move up. And then it won't become a full high school until its 4th year. So you have the students who are in Inglewood. You're going to close down their schools after, let's say, they graduate. So that means no more incoming students, basically. So if it's cut at senior year, then that's it. You're going to completely drain economic institutions, shut them down, put this new $80 million institution. And I'm sure Hope, Inglewood, and Paul Robeson and the other one are not, I'm sure they can benefit off $80 million. You don't need to create a new selective enrollment, which is predominantly, we all know, not of African American or Latinx descent, that occupy those type of educational institutions. This is what we're dealing with, and that's going to be the first step to gentrifying and removing Black people out of the Inglewood community. Because again, they already put a Whole Foods, they put all these new developments. Like you said, when you take education away, that's the death blow to the community.
I would like to actually go back to the time when we met at Inglewood, or at the Inglewood community event, in regards to the community wanting to protect its schools and keep them open. And it's interesting, for anyone who's watching this right now, you can check that out on the Heartlands Media Facebook page. We did a live stream of that event, and it's I'll never forget when the CPS representative said, "I don't want to see anyone here make a scene, cause a riot," and in turn, everyone there was respectful. The one thing that everyone was saying, and if some people were getting vocal, is please don't shut down our schools. These schools used to have a lot of programs to help students out, and there are so many people who have stood out, but one person, there's a couple who remain burned in my mind, but the one that stands out the most is when you had a teacher say, I believe it might have been a student, if these schools are so bad, why are the students, teachers, and families
trying to find the
keeping them open? So what does a school, like especially those in Inglewood, mean to the community?
I think when you look at just education institutions as well, I feel a lot of people, there were a lot of alumni in that group, the group that was there.
That's clear. Yes,
they went to Paul Robeson, they went to Hope, they went to Inglewood, they went to those high schools, and now they live. Let's say a good majority of them may live still in Inglewood, and they understand that the death blow to a community is getting rid of the education systems. And when you get rid of the education systems, I think it's bigger than just the education systems. It's the community itself. It is the culture of the community. It's what the community is. And I think when you get rid of that, you will get rid of Inglewood. Inglewood is, it's not the North. It's not Gold Coast, right? But that doesn't mean that this community needs to be forgotten and completely destroyed. It can go back to what it used to be. It can be a place where brothers are acknowledging each other as brothers. It can be a place where education thrives. It can be that without destroying and getting rid of the culture of the community. You're getting rid of the culture of the community when you drive out the people that live there. That's just a fact. And getting rid of that culture is, that is someone's childhood too as well. So it's not only students, but it's our parents, our grandparents who went to those schools. That's their childhood as well. That's where they grew up. That's where they were taught, the basic things that the education system is supposed to teach us. That's what we had. Not only that, industrial education used to be there, and we need to bring that back.
And it shows that there was a bond there, that there's a history.
It's a bond, exactly.
So I think for the people who are watching this right now on CAN TV, who want to learn more about your organization and what you guys do to help people who are struggling to survive, especially in this city with a government that's pretty indifferent to them, where can they learn more about you on social media? Where can they find your guys' website so they can learn more about you guys, so they can volunteer, donate, maybe participate?
Definitely. That's naturalpathnutrition.com. That's our website. You can find us on Facebook, Natural Path Nutrition. Just search it in. And our organization, again, is about improving community engagement and community awareness on social, political, and economic issues. And our internship programs are trying to make sure that that the youth and the senior citizens get a professional footprint in the industry.
That's a wonderful note to end it on. Drake, thank you so much for joining
Thank you for having
Media. So now for our viewing audience, it's important for all of you to know that right now we have when you see this, we have a full-blown series on CAN TV. And also Heartlands Media has a website. That's www.hardlensmedia.com. So if you have a story, or perhaps maybe you might know somebody that we should interview, check out our webpage. There's a few links at the top to where you can send us a message or email, and we can have them here as a guest. And so we can talk about the issues that are affecting our city. Heartlands Media is on Q4 Radio every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Peace, everyone, and let's all do what we can to build a better future.
You're watching Hard Lens Media.